Where the American people are misdirected and where they are looking for answers and not getting answers is actually not in the corporate world or in the government world. It's where those two worlds meet. It's where governments and corporations come together. And that space is much more common than people realize. Let me give you an example. Corporations drive the tax base that governments need to run their government. That doesn't mean that the corporation gets taxed. It doesn't even necessarily mean that the CEO gets taxed. But if you have a corporation that has 10,000 employees, guess what all of those 10,000 employees do? They all pay taxes. So it's much more valuable to the federal government to be able to capture 12 or 18% tax from 10,000 employees than from one CEO. And the product that that company sells is also subject to a tax. And then there's state taxes on top of that. There's service fees. There's various ways that the government generates revenue based off of what the corporation does. So government, especially the American government, loves corporations. And for that reason, the government actually starts to change its legislation, change its policies, even put people in office because those people are friendly to business. And the bigger the business, the more friendly they become, which is why big pharma, big tobacco, big oil becomes so valuable to the federal government. Because no, they don't get to tax the CEO who's making $10 million a year, but they do get to tax every one of the employees that works for that CEO, which generates $250 million a year, right? So when you talk about understanding that corporations can be highly efficient and highly manipulative, then you also talk about the government being essentially dependent on corporations in order to drive the tax base that makes the government run. Now you start to see some of that space where information to the American public is lost. Because the government may say it wants a healthy population, but do you know what it wants even more than a healthy population? A population that generates enough tax revenue to run the country. And if keeping people unhealthy makes them buy more drugs, buy more medication, buy more personal trainers. They keep eating fast food. They keep driving cars. They keep, smoking their medication, whatever it might be. They keep self-medicating their way through depression rather than meditating their way through depression. Meditation doesn't come with a fee, right? So now you start to see that the government is looking for an economic engine, and it understands that big pharma, big farming, big medicine drives that economic base.